David, thank you so much for joining us here at 6ABC.
No problem.
Thank you. Stranger Things Season 3.
Season 3.
Did you know that was going to become the sensation that it is today?
I did from day one of shooting. No, I'm kidding. No, I thought it would be a disaster. I really did. When we were shooting, you're just kind of in the trenches and you're doing your thing and doing it for like 6 months and nobody's really watching anything. You're not getting much response, and so I was really worried. And then before it came out, there was like no advertisements, and I was like, oh, they're burying it. And then it came out, and almost overnight, like that weekend, it sort of became this zeitgeist, and I was blown away.
Yeah, that's interesting. And you point out, I don't think, before it aired, there was nothing like to promote it that much, right?
Yeah, I mean, they claim that it's sort of that they wanted people to discover it and it to be that was very gratifying. But normally shows have posters on buses and things like that and ads and stuff, and there was none of that. I was walking around New York, and a friend of mine is on a very popular TV show. Around a week before, I was like, there's no ads, and he was like, oh, they're burying it, man, they hate it. And I was like, oh no, what a nightmare.
Just a different game plan.
Exactly, yes, exactly.
And it worked out.
Yeah, exactly. Very cost-effective one, too, I think.
That's true on their part, yeah. So when you, what I'm going to ask you the cliche question. What drew you to the project? Like, was it the script and like?
Yeah, I mean, I heard that the job was paid. That was what drew me initially. I heard that you could, that it was a job. No, I mean, I was not in that time in my career. I was not really in a position to, turn down work or anything. I mean, I've been sort of a journeyman actor for a long time in terms of I've had to do movies to pay my rent and television shows to pay my rent, and this was a show that came along, and to a certain degree I'd grown somewhat cynical. Like I had a world in theater where I could explore a lot broader things with my acting, and but you can't really make a living doing theater in New York. Or at least you can't pay Manhattan rent. So I would go off and do movies, and I sort of had treated movies and television as if they were kind of a paycheck, And I kind of got to this place in my career where I was like, I won't advance beyond this, so I'll just be that guy with a gun running after Denzel Washington or Liam Neeson, and that was fine, and I was happy with that. And then this thing came along, and the pilot was, it's what you see, and to me, it's breathtaking. I think even if you just watch the show as entertainment, I don't know that you really get the sophistication of what is happening in that pilot in terms of how they're setting up character, how they're moving story and character along at the same time on each page. Those things are really hard to do, and they don't do it in a flashy way. They do it in a very sophisticated way. So I was blown away by that. And then I was like, God, this will be a dream job. There's no way they're going to pick me because they have their choice of stars, their Netflix or whatever. And so I auditioned, and then they just sort of chose me, and I couldn't believe it. I remember getting the phone call. It was a weird thing because there was some kind of drama about and then I got a phone call at 10 o'clock at night, I think on a Friday. And I was just like, I remember walking down the street just going whoa, whoa! I was just crazy. I was crazy.
You're like, is this real life?
Yeah, totally. So yeah, I mean, it's just the brilliance of the writing that drew me to it. And the funny thing about the show is it just keeps upping the ante, because not only was the writing brilliant, but then the production design was brilliant, the cinematography is brilliant, the costumes are brilliant, and then on top of that, the direction and the entire editing of the show is so terrific across the board, and just keeps getting better with this new season. I don't think Stranger Things has ever been better, which is, usually shows, you get into the third season and everybody starts getting tired and fat. I mean, I've gotten fat, but I haven't gotten tired.
Well, that's good.
I'm very energetic, yeah.
Tired for next season. So this season takes place in 1985.
Correct.
Can we talk, what was David Harbour doing in 1985?
I was 10 years old. I think I had moved to a smaller town. I was in White Plains, and then I moved to a smaller town. What grade are you in 10 years old? Are you in third grade, fourth grade? Probably fourth grade.
Yeah.
Fourth grade. Yeah, I guess I was like, as 10 years old, like I was starting to get that girls weren't gross, which I hadn't gotten until that point. I think that's when that was starting to happen. I was playing a lot of kickball, and I was just being a general 10-year-old. And then I was going to the movies too. I mean, I was seeing things like Back to the Future came out in 1985, in the summer of '85, and I saw that in the theater. Blew my mind.
My favorite movie.
One of my favorite movies of all time. It's almost a perfect movie.
It's sci-fi and comedy. It's kind of
And makes me cry every time he rips up that letter. Marty, we can't know the future, Marty.
No.
Wait, Doc. and then he's got it taped together. Oh my God, it's the best. It's the best.
How'd you know?
It's almost as good as Stranger Things.
It's kind of like the same thing. It's sci-fi and comedy.
No, exactly. And that really is my wheelhouse in terms of what I love. Because I love stuff that has depth in terms of acting and story and complexity and character. But I also, when it's just a straight-on indie about that stuff, I want a monster to show up occasionally or something, And I think Stranger Things sort of has both those elements, which is great, yeah.
And it also has New Coke in this.
Yeah, we're bringing back New Coke.
Have you tried it? Or did you
I haven't tried it yet. I mean, back in the day, I remember trying it, and I remember, like everybody else, I think I didn't like it. I think, yeah, but I haven't tried the new Coke.
Yeah.
Do they brand it as New Coke?
But you can get it on the Coke website now.
Can you? Okay, I got to try some. What?
I'm sure you have an in.
You'd be surprised. You'd be surprised how difficult it is for me.
So tonight you're throwing out the first pitch.
I am,
right?
yeah.
Have you thrown out a first pitch before?
I did a couple on this tour, yeah.
Oh, you did?
It's a very risky proposition.
It is
Because if you do it well, nobody cares. And if you do it poorly, everybody humiliates you.
Infamy.
Yeah, and there's funny things. Like I got, I know a pitcher, and I asked him for some advice, and he said, he gave me a little bit of real advice, and then he just said, don't do what 50 Cent did or something. And I was like, what? So I looked online, and I saw it, and I was like, well, that was like a couple years ago, no? Yeah. People still talking about it. So I was like, wow, you could really mess this up. So we shall see. We shall see. I haven't thrown a baseball. I mean, I did a couple, recently, but I really haven't thrown a baseball since I was like 12 years old, I think, since like Little League. So I can throw a punch better than I can a baseball, but they don't let you do that in the first base.
Don't hit the fanatic.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, you're going back to your youth, in 1980.
No, yeah, and I'm excited about it. I mean, there is something about throwing out a first pitch at a baseball game, which I never dreamed I would do. So yeah, it's such a wonderful thing.
So let's say people, they're amped up for season 3 of Stranger Things. No spoilers. I know.
Okay.
Can you give a little bit of what they can expect?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I think you've seen with the trailer, like it's 1985, so even the color palette kind of gets brighter. Like everything, the 80s blooms like a flower. And so the colors are brighter. It's a summer season. The kids are out of school. There's like barbecues, fireworks, swimming pools, kind of hormones, the kids are growing up. So there's like all sorts of, changes that are happening. And I think, and so in a sense, there's a lighter tone to some of the season. And then in terms of the scares and the all that horror stuff, that even amps up a little bit. And I also like, it's centered around July 4th, which is Independence Day. And there's something about this show that each season we choose a holiday. Like the first season was kind of Thanksgiving, the last season it was Halloween, this season is July 4th. And they're all very American holidays. And it's about Midwest America. And it has a lot of, it's not political in any way, but it has a lot of subtle kind of themes about this, 80s good people struggling against evil, good American stock people that I love about the show. It's great to do like a show that, you know, has really solid American, Midwestern, you know, Hopper's like a real cowboy in that way, and that's my heritage and my genealogy, and so I just love it for that as well. So there's more of that.
That's awesome. And one last question. Your character, Hopper, can you talk about his journey a little bit
Yeah.
in this upcoming season?
So, like last season, we ended with him adopting 11 legally. So the monster's been put back in the. We think we closed the gate, and the monster's gone, and so he's really just kind of in dad mode, and he's not popping pills as much or drinking as much. He's not acting out as much. He's trying to be a good dad, but in that way, he is eating a lot of chips and salsa and sitting in front of the TV and kind of stewing about the fact that his daughter is growing up in front of his eyes, and he can't really handle that. She's starting to like boys and things like that, and so this has got him to such a fever pitch that at the beginning of the season, he has to figure out how to deal with this. And that's really what propels him throughout the season. And then, of course, you know, supernatural things happen as well. But in terms of Hopper's arc, it really becomes about who he is as a man. You know, we explore his fatherhood, but then that leads into what he's lost as a man, what he's longing for as a man. And we start to peel back the onion on that.
I can't wait to watch it. I want to watch it right now.
I just watched it, and
You do have an in.
I do have an in on that, but it's breathtaking.
It comes out July 4th. Right?
July 4th, yeah.
All right, cool. We'll be watching. Thank you so much,
Awesome.
David.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.